Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai piki mai ki ngā kaimā takitaki e ngā kau nui mai ana ki tēnei taiwhāinga mā tātua kei ngā pari tahataha o te awa o Mohaka. Kei te rohe o Ngāti Kahungunu, tēnā koutou. The Mohaka River, stretching 172 kilometres to the Pacific Ocean, rising in the Kaimanawa Ranges and bound by the Kāweka and Maunga Haruru Ranges through the east-central region of beautiful Hawke's Bay. Home to favourite fishing and kayaking spots, as well as popular campgrounds. The 17th TrackMe Adventure GO-4-12 Youth Adventure Race was this year held in September at the spectacular Mohaka River Farm and the adjacent Riverland Station. I tau mai te whānau McVicar ki konei noho ai I ngā tau kotahi mano iwarau rima tekau, and established the whole area and made it farmable again after previous farmers had abandoned the land prior to te pakanga tuatahi o te ao. For decades they farmed sheep and some cattle, but when the Pāmu passed to the second generation of McVicars, a move came at the start of the 1980s to replace the labour-intensive sheep with deer. Koinei tētahi o ngā Pāmu tia tuatahi o Aotearoa, and now they farm around 1,000 head. The whānau then saw the tourist market was taking off and decided to set up a riverside puninga hei whakatū I tētahi arakohi pūtea. They moved cabins onto the whenua from all over the Taupo district, set the puninga up and ran haerenga hoiho, rafting and hi-ika. Over 30 or 40 years it became a well-known spot for haerenga ākura and general tourism. In 2019, the puninga and approximately 270 acres of the Pāmu was carved off Riverland Station and sold. Eddie Rimmer and his whānau now run the Pāmu and puninga.
Changed the focus a little bit from, I guess, away from solely school camps to more family groups come in. Fishermen come here to fish. We actually held the National Fly Fishing Champs here last year. So it's well renowned for its brown trout, rainbow trout. People come and hunt from here on the surrounding areas. It's a very well known spot for coast-to-coast training, so the kayakers come here and we have groups that base themselves here and then just jump on the river and go on down. So it's a beautiful property, and it caters for people with different interest groups, and even if you just want to come here and read a book, it's just kind of you unplug here. It's out in the hills. It's quite a ways from, well, it's only an hour from Napier, but it feels like a lot longer than that.
The original plan was for the event to take place in late Maihe. However, in February, the unthinkable happened. Huripari Gabriel hit and absolutely devastated many places in Te Ika Maui, but especially Te Matawa Maui.
So on the 11th, my friends and I were walking around the regain section of the course. We'd pretty much organised everything for the event, and we were talking to the farmer, and he said that there was some bad weather coming in.
It was predicted. We kind of knew there was going to be some big rain event back in February.
And we saw it was a cyclone, but like many people, we didn't think it was going to be so impactful. The
amount of rain wasn't predicted, the level that we would get. I think the prediction was around about 100 mil. We got 600 mil in 12 hours. And because it had been such a wet summer leading into it, the ground just could not cope with it. So it was huge devastation.
Just turned things upside down. The destruction in this area was just incredible.
And while there were wāhi affected much worse than Riverland Station and Mohaka River Farm, it was still extremely traumatic to the families running these Pāmu.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to get up that morning and have a look. And you didn't know where to start because we had all our boundary fences down. And with deer, that's pretty extreme to contain. So we had deer out in the neighbours in the forestry blocks.
Lost a couple of ponds that were down by the river, and the river just cut a new course
roads went open for something like 6 weeks up here in the farm. They didn't have power, I think, for a month.
We think we lost approximately 20 to 30 younger deer with the fawns, 2 slips, probably buried, unfortunately.
The river itself got to over 1,000 cumecs, and just to put that in perspective, it normally runs, at the moment it's about 25 cumecs, so it's about 40 times it went up.
So we're just about to come up to do a full muster now. Now we've got all our boundary fences and the deer pretty much contained. We're hoping we got them all back in.
Overland water, there was water just flowing over the paddocks all over the place, cutting new streams and blocking up culverts and rediverting water everywhere. It was quite the mess.
We've only really had a chance to do a temporary fix at the moment because we went into winter and it's very wet. Yeah, there's a lot of earth still to move and clear.
In the surrounding puka you can see hundreds of slips. Each patch of white clay represents a slip, and much of those ended up in the waterways and flowing into the valleys and lowlands below.
We were still committed to doing the event here because, you know, you've got to indicate that normal life takes over again at some point.
Just clearing roadways first, then starting to clear up paddocks and just make big piles. You'll see them piles around the place.
For the farm, they lost their income of camps and so on, and we wanted to bring these young people up here.
There's still quite a bit to do. Fencing got hit pretty hard, so that'll take, you know, probably a couple of years to get the fencing down this part of the property, back it going again.
The kids are going to be going through areas where there was like 150-year-old trees and it's just been cleared out and it's bedrock now.
It's just what it is, and we're not particularly stressed by it, but we want to just take it month by month and get things done. We
found that there was so much damage in the areas that we'd planned. We lost 90% of our course that we'd planned. The mountain bike had gone, which we were going to use. Where we were paddling out, the get out doesn't exist anymore. So it was a real challenge, but it was also, I guess, one of the big triumphs of it, where the local farmer gets involved and helps us with access, and they're just trying to recover too. So it's a big ask to have all these young people running around their property, and we're so indebted, and I think it's a Kiwi thing, and that's how we make the world better, by reaching out and helping, and yeah, I'm so indebted to what they did for us.
The 2023 New Zealand Secondary School Adventure Racing Championship was a tauwhāinga te kaumārua haura te roa, made up of multiple legs that stretched out and back from the Puninga Conference Centre. It was made up of nearly 70 kilometres of mountain biking, running or tramping, kayaking, orienteering, and then there was a range of fun activities around the conference centre, which included a Tyrolean traverse, piki taura, archery, and general outdoor skills and panga. Only the first and final legs of their pahikara maunga were compulsory, otherwise teams could complete the remaining tasks in an order that suited them. However, the activities section couldn't be started before 9 AM and the kayak couldn't start before midday. However, had to be started prior to 3 PM. Te wā timata ai te tauwhāinga was 6 AM, and there would be time penalties should any team not complete the course by 6 PM. Te rā I mua I te tauwhāinga nui, 121 kaiwhakataitai split into 40 kapa from 19 different kura from across the motu started to roll in and set up camp, either in tents, camper vans or in the cabins at the Mohaka River Farm Puninga. The 40 kapa included 17 racing in the 12-hour race and 14 6-hour teams who were racing for te ipu o ngā kura tuarua o Aotearoa. With everyone settled into their accommodation, it was then dinner time at the conference centre, which would act as an event headquarters as our kaiwhakataitai continued to study their mahere and work out their plan for the day ahead. Then race director David Tate began the pre-event briefing.
Well, welcome. You made it here. What a year it has been.
After his initial welcome, he handed over to Eddie Rimmer from Mohaka River Farm to give everyone a background of the puninga and pāmu and a bit about the ordeal they've overcome since the cyclone earlier in the year. Then David laid down the ture for the event, and there's always very important information in the briefing, and it often turns out to be the first test for kapa to see whether they've heard and understood all the instructions. I tēnei tau, the start line was only a short hikoi for everyone from their accommodation, but after the weather had been fine and sunny the day before, it seemed a bit cooler for the official start.
How long do you reckon it'll be before it gets light? Well, I'm according to us, what, to say 6:30, so it's already kind of getting light. So probably a third of the way is that first light.
And we have a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're off.
This first leg took them from the event headquarters up the puke, past the Mohaka River Farm reception, and then up Riverland Station's main farm track to the Trig Station, āhua 8 kiromita te tawhiti, and a 500 metre climb. Then they needed to ride back down the Mohaka Ridge track, which was no longer accessible by four-wheel vehicles after washouts that occurred during the huripari. Kapa weren't permitted to descend on the main farm track, as this could spook deer into running into taiepa and hurting themselves. Most of the kapa made quick progress up te aramatua o te pāmu. They all had the added challenge of needing to open and shut gates along the way. They were easy to spot with lights mounted on both their bikes and pōtai maro. The track steepened as they approached the first control at the fire hut. The next challenge was to locate the actual control. There was still a decent climb ahead of them to the Trig Station, but the leading kapa moved swiftly through this first leg. I runga ake o te tihi, the temperature was a bit icy. Low misty clouds sat on the surrounding puke. As the early leaders reached the end of the main farm track and rode on to the upper grazing paddocks, they were possibly unaware of their proximity to further evidence of Huripari Gabriel, remnants of a huge landslide that had cut a massive slice out of the hillside. A road can be clearly seen washed away, and the landslide ran 2 or 3 kilometres all the way to the river below. Let's go. It took just over 3/4 of an hour for the first teams to arrive at the trig station, and it was a pretty tight race in the male competition at this early stage, with only 25 seconds separating the first 3 kapa. The leading kōtiro teams were less than 7 minutes behind. And only 16 seconds separated the leading 2 kapa in the female championship. After the 4th and final control point on this wāhanga, the leaderboard looked like this. Beginner's Luck from New Plymouth was holding on to their lead in the Tāne Championship, closely followed by John Paul College. Just Follow Isaac from Francis Douglas had made up a lot of ground since the trig station and snuck into 3rd ahead of the 2nd New Plymouth team. In the girls competition, Motueka had held on to their slim lead over the first New Plymouth girls team with the interesting team name. There was then a decent gap back to 3rd, and even bigger margin back to 4th place. The only mixed team participating this year was making good progress in their 2023 adventure race. Back at event headquarters, kapa needed to transition to on foot and immediately had the choice of whether to continue the tauwhāinga in the listed order or not. The top 2 teams in the boys and girls section and the 1 mixed team headed straight to the section 2A trek up the Inangatahi stream. It turned out that 9 of the 17 teams did the Inangatahi stream trek as their second leg. The rest of the teams went straight on to Morearea trek instead, which netted a greater number of controls and points. It would be interesting to see later in the day whether this would pay dividends for the kapa who decided on this tactic. Getting its name from inanga, which is the most common New Zealand whitebait species, and tahi, which of course means 1, the Inangatahi stream leg was quite a grueling trek of around 16 kilometres and required potai maro to be worn for safety. There was only just 6 50-point controls to clip, and so it was a time-consuming and tiring leg to complete for kapa who set out to capture all points available. The first control was on the edge of the Pamu, and a nearby trail took racers down to and from the Koawa. The only way they could complete this leg was travelling up and then back down the stream, with access through the Rangahere not permitted. This was due to the number of significant hazards that are still present after Cyclone Gabriel in the forest. The standings after the second leg looked like this, bearing in mind that those 8 other kapa might come back and complete this leg later. John Paul College had taken the lead in the Tāne comp, followed by Francis Douglas Memorial College, while Beginner's Luck had dropped back to 3rd, and there was a decent gap back to New Plymouth Boys' 3rd team. Which way is north? Just the 2 female teams had completed the first 2 legs in order, and Motueka had narrowly held on to their lead. The Morearea trek also started by heading up a stream and was quite a challenging track, travelling approximately 17 kilometres back up and past the trig station and into more ngahere and stream walks to collect 19 controls. Not only were there so many more controls to kohi, but there were way more points on offer, with 3 of them worth 400 points and a total of 2,550, more than 5 times the amount of the first 2 legs combined. Earlier, Team TJ&E from Havelock North High School was one of the teams who skipped the Inangatahi stream trek and went straight to the Morearea trek. Some teams were still finishing the initial mountain bike leg down Mohaka Ridge at this time. was a lot of huripari damage visible in the early parts of the Mohaka trek. This is all that's left of a concrete water tank. The Trash Talk team from Whangarei Boys High School and the second Ngāmotu team also both took the Mohaka trek option before the Inangatahi stream trek, and were hoping they would still have enough time in the day to complete all the sections of the tauwhāinga. It was the second visit for Kapa to the upper grazing paddocks and trig station summit, still in the early stages of the day. Then, after grabbing a quick bite and checking their mahere, Trash Talk disappeared into the ngahere to try and locate the biggest points gathering they were going to find all day. Meanwhile, the new Plymouth boys team Beginners Luck appeared to be making great time on what was their third leg, as they made their way back up the main farm track. Beginners Luck was still trailing John Paul College at this stage, however Francis Douglas, who was second after the Inangatahi stream trek, had decided to start the activities section before starting out on this third leg. Our 17 kapa were now spread across almost the whole course. The activities section was available for kapa from 9 AM to rest tired legs and get involved in a few different tasks. Everything was either 50 or 100 points, and this section totaled 1,100 points. There was the potential for these tasks to eat up a lot of time, however, and teams needed to diligently work through what was required in good time. There was the Tyrolean Traverse, a rope climb, the fire activity. There were knots to tie,
No, that's not right.
emergency tasks,
If I like pictures and send this back home, they'll think there's something wrong.
bag throwing challenge, archery, various panga, the prize table which included questions to be answered.
Prizes for winning prizes. So you get points for winning prizes.
Neatly, you're getting filmed.
Watch out, the speaker. Yeah, down. Yep, those are two. Right in front of you. Yes. That's it. Watch out. Do that. That's a good fight.
Everyone was enjoying the day. It couldn't have been going better. After all that had happened earlier in the year with Cyclone Gabriel, for the day to be finally coming together so well was a triumph for race director David and his team.
They're all coming with great big smiles and scratches, and they've had a ball. I saw one team come through and they had an antler from that they'd found in the bush, and that's the biggest challenge, but I think it's also the biggest reward. And for me, it's actually finding that opportunity to let kids go and do, well, they're not kids, they're young adults. Let them go and learn and be awesome.
Terrain is very challenging and tricky at times, but they look like they're handling it really well actually, and super fit, so really impressive. Yeah. Super impressive where they're going. But I think they get to see a bit of countryside that they've probably never seen before, which is really neat to see, and enjoying it. I'm
always blown away by the schools and the teams that come here, and how they, it's a big ask to bring a whole bunch of kids along, and there's a fair bit of trust in the model. And we've been doing this for 17 years, and it's hard and stressful, but it's incredibly rewarding. I guess it's the same things that they get out of doing the event. It's tough at the time, but there's a purpose for it and an end. And we just love having the opportunity. I guess the other thing for me is these things happen because of the people around us. And I'm so indebted to my wife, to my friends and family. We got over 30 volunteers, and most of them are my friends. And I spent many years doing youth work, and often young people would end up in a lot of trouble, and it's just because they hung out with the wrong people. And I'm incredibly blessed to hang out with amazing people, and it's humbling. Yeah, I'm always just blown away by the young people and what they get out of it. We were once asked, why do we do this? And it's actually because we experienced how the outdoors and challenge builds us as people. So, every time that we do an event like this, and even just the training to it, those young people are learning about themselves and about teamwork, and learning good habits. You don't go on a ram raid if you're training for an adventure race.
Because kappa were now spread across the course and some were about to start the kayak league, we'll now change to updating the standings to show the points gathered by the leading kappa at different points in time. Different teams might not have quite completed the sections that net the most points yet. A case in point is the Ngāmotu girls' first team, who at midday were on 1400 points, halfway through leg 3, and were about to net themselves 1200 points in the next 15 minutes. But as it stands, Motueka were on top with 3,150 points, with 32 of the maximum 57 controls clipped. Second was the New Plymouth girls team, 3 Idiots on a Hill, and third was Taradale High School. In the boys' championship, Trash Talk from Whangarei were leading John Paul College, who, while equal on points with beginner's luck, were just ahead of them in the tauwhainga back to event headquarters to begin their next task. While Whangarei's H-Bond team were also on 3,050 points in 4th place. It must be pointed out that the two Whangarei teams both needed to go back and complete the arduous E Ngatahi stream check to collect full points and be contenders in the end. One of the favourite tasks of the day for teams was the kayak league. Kappa needed to carry their kayak a wee way to the launch point before kayaking 5 kilometres downstream, stopping to clip 3 controls along the way. From there they needed to carry their kayak half a kilometre to a transition area before riding their mountain bikes 6 kilometres back along the road to the event headquarters for a maximum total of 750 points. By now the weather had improved a lot and our teams took to the water in bright sunshine. Two of the first few teams to start the kayak leg were the Whangarei boys teams, but it wasn't all plain sailing for our competitors. This moment was captured by parent Ben Gray.
Up the wall, they're in! Up the watch! I hate to say is that Hamish Clinch? Is that Hayden Ewanson and Ty Pullen? I know who you are! Up the watch! Go boys, go! Woo!
That's what you expect.
Just chuck them in, Henrietta.
Toes.
Just look.
The next team we spotted on the river was Nucky Numbnuts from New Plymouth Boys High School. Just behind them was the team from Taradale High School. Meanwhile, just ahead of them, the New Plymouth boys team had struck trouble. One of their kappa was no longer in their kayak. And the other two were drifting downstream in an upturned boat. Taradale girls team were trying hard to stay in touch with the leaders when they hit the water in their kayak. Unlike the other leading female teams, Motueka had chosen to start the activities section prior to heading out on the more Rearea trek, so at this stage it was more difficult to track who exactly was leading as they headed off to do their kayak. Meanwhile, the Zumi Bumfarts New Plymouth girls team had completed their kayak and was working through the activities section.
Yes, get the paper.
Front pocket, maybe? Front pocket, front pocket. Front pocket, front pocket. Will you start with that? Yeah, we'll start with that. Yeah, I've got that pocket.
Whangare's H-bomb team was still tracking well, and here they are completing the orienteering part of the activities section. Just before 3 o'clock, their Kura mates Trash Talk were just ahead of them and set out again on foot to complete the Inangatahi stream trek they had passed on early in the day. The standings at 3 PM saw that the Kaiarihitane were just completing the last of the activities, while JPC was halfway through their kayak, and although they were in fourth, they had a large time advantage over the two Whangare boys teams who were just setting off to complete the Inangatahi stream trek. In the Whakataitai Kohine, 3 idiots on a hill had gathered the most points at this stage. However, like the Whangare boys teams, hadn't yet completed the Inangatahi stream trek, so the advantage probably still sat with their schoolmates and the kapa from Motueka. Listed as the 12th activity, the orienteering was often left by teams as the last activity they did. It was about 1.2 kilometres in and around the puninga and included 10 controls they needed to clip to gain 100 points. With a comfortable lead now secured over JPC, let's follow beginners' luck for a while as they complete the orienteering, their final activity. The final leg was the compulsory Waka Waka mountain bike ride. This ride was a 6-kilometre journey and took our teams up the main access road almost all the way back to Mohaka Farm reception, then back on the bike ride track and around the upper Mohaka Farm paddocks before heading back down to complete a final lap of the lower fields and around to Te Rārangi Whakamutuna. It was a brilliant performance by the Ngāmotu boys team, picking up all 57 controls at a final time of 9 hours and 40 minutes, and they were pretty happy with their efforts.
It's been quite a long day. We got off to a rough start thinking we would be bush bashing for the first 3 hours, but thankfully after our first bike it was smooth sailing all the way through that river creek, and we got out I think about 3 minutes behind JPC, and then I think we caught them on the second kind of Rogaine section, and yeah, I think it's been quite
From there, when we went from strength to strength, really, the first, we mucked up the first point on the nav, but once we got over that hurdle, we were moving, yeah.
And then the first bike leg, coming down, we got a flat tyre, so we had to bike down the entire second half of the downhill with a flat tyre, kind of hoping that the rim doesn't get damaged, and quickly we had to give it to our support crew and get them to pump the tyre up while we were out doing the Rogaines. So that was kind of a scary moment. And the paddling was phenomenal. That was really fun.
Yeah, it was really good.
We were weaving our way through all the rapids, and
the cold water was so nice on your legs, like just after a tiring day, just at it, just jumping just cruising down the river, The river sort of took you down, so you didn't have to power yourself too much. It was pretty choice to paddle, really, but then,
John Paul College came in over 35 minutes later, but had also performed wonderfully well to pick up all available points and finished with nearly 2 hours to spare. Meanwhile, things had continued to be very tight and tense in the Kohine Championship as Motueka clung to a 2.5-minute lead as Ngāmotu girls headed out on the Orienteering section to chase them down. completed their orienteering a good time and extended their time lead over New Plymouth to nearly 4 minutes and had just the final mountain bike leg to go. New Plymouth girls still believe they had a good chance of chasing down Motueka as they completed their orienteering and set out on the final mountain bike leg in pursuit. Our only mixed team from Whakatane had finished for the day and was sporting a few bumps and scratches from their adventure. They'd unfortunately miscalculated and missed the opportunity to do the kayak leg, but they'd still had a ball out there and were our mixed team champions. Meanwhile, the Motueka team was spotted off the intended trail for the Pi Waka Waka mountain bike ride and had clearly run into some kind of navigation trouble. Upon analysing their day, it turns out that Motueka had mistakenly clipped the fourth control of the final mountain bike ride instead of the nearby first control of the more Rearea track at just after 9:45 in the morning. This had obviously thrown the team as they were looking to complete their final leg and clip the 5 controls necessary to complete the race. So New Plymouth girls were the first team to appear on the bottom fields riding towards the finish line. They were racing against Taradale High School, however Taradale had passed on the Inangatahi stream trek and were behind Ngāmotu and Motueka on points. They were the 4th and 5th teams to finish the course for the day, and while New Plymouth had gathered all controls and secured first place, second place may still have been up for grabs. Motueka finally found their way to the Rārangi Whakamutunga. They'd only missed the 1 control, and were it not for that error earlier in the day, they may well have won the race.
Wow, that was something. That was something. We did it, guys. Good job.
Did you press the zipper?
Yes, no, we got wrong. We actually got wrong, I'm not joking. No, I'm like, we did it wrong. I'm halfway between, I don't want to talk about it, and, oh, that was most hilarious thing ever.
No, she starts coming in. Oh man, it was a big day. It was a big effort. We were kind of cat and mouse with Motueka most of the way, so we were pushing pretty hard, but I think we came out with the result we were after, which is awesome, and it was such a good race. We definitely pushed ourselves to our limit, so yeah, we fully did not see ourselves winning, and so yeah, we're gutted for them. They raced so hard, and I think there was just some really good competition between the 2 teams today.
There was then a steady stream of teams finish over the next half hour. They had all done so well, and there's a real sense of achievement felt by everyone who completed the 12-hour adventure race. final triumph of the day was to see Whangarei Boys High School team Trash Talk come in just under 10 minutes before the 6 p.m. end time. They were the 16th cuppa home out of the 17 teams and had taken just under 20 minutes longer to complete the course than their kura mates Team H-Bomb. But it was time well spent, as they were only the 4th team of the day to capture all 5,150 points. The final standings show a comfortable win in the Tāne competition to Ngā Motu's Beginner's Luck, based on time over John Paul College. It's the 16th time New Plymouth Boys High School has won across the 17 GO-4-12 events, only missing out in 2021. Whangarei's Trash Talk took 3rd place despite being the 2nd to last team in. Their schoolmates in 4th and Taradale in 6th had only missed 3 controls, but Francis Douglas Memorial only missed 1 control worth 400 points up in the bush. These 3 teams and Havelock North had all finished 20 minutes or so before Trash Talk. Only Which Way is North failed to complete the course in the 12 hours, but like all other teams had an awesome day which for them started and finished in the dark. In the female competition, all 5 teams finished in time, and only that 1 control ended up costing Motueka on the points side of things. New Plymouth girls teams picked up 1st and 3rd. It had once again been a brilliant event, and regardless of where they all finished, everyone who gave it a go had performed outstandingly and had a lot of fun as well. Nō reira, e mihi ana ki ngā kaipaka taitai katoa. Hei tērā tau, ka kite anō.